Here's a funny little thing that happened the other day at our Tai Chi class. My friend Eddie White gave me an old Ebony magazine. And it's so funny to read about that kind of history because they were debating things like, should the Negro use skin dye and change his color? Maybe that would make the difference in the way that he was accepted in America and so forth. And of course they had the usual 4 or 5 excerpts from pieces about people who had become the first to do something, actually done it in ancient times, but because this is America, is the first Negro to stick his tongue out, whatever. Anyway, one of the pieces, one of the lead pieces in there is what men notice about women, black women. Mm-hmm. And they bring in some people that probably you're too young to remember. Ezra Charles, who was a top flight boxer at the time. Of course, Joe Lewis, top flight boxer at the time. Duke Ellington, top flight boxer. Yeah. Top flight musician. Mm-hmm. And a couple other people. And then they come, each one of these guys says, let's say Duke Ellington, he says, well, I looked up the overall woman. Billy Eckstein says, I want a woman who has intelligent eyes. They all, what they look at.
Tell me, truly.
Okay, but it gets so funny because it gets down to Langston Hughes. What do you look at that attracts you to a woman? And he wrote a beautiful little poem, except for the fact that Langston Hughes was gay. And anyway, are we ready to start here?
Yes, we are. We are recording already, but okay, okay, it's all good. Okay.
Okay,
many thoughts of Salena-Hawkins and many reading old ebony magazines nowadays. Even.
The one I can get my hands on.
Anything you can read.
Thank you, Eddie. Okay, well, this is Tuesday night, and here we are.
Yes, we are.
With in chapter 7 of
Conversations
with Likka Sto Rufus.
There we go.
Zing, 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 zing.
Okay.
And it's going on.
Yes, it is.
Give you a little up-to-date matter because I know from week to week it's kind of hard to keep track of the whole thing. Mm-hmm. This guy Willie West, the writer, is feeling him out and trying to get whatever information he get from liquor store to give him a fully rounded, more in-depth story. So in each one of these lead-in chapters, so to speak, he is talking to him about what Willie did when he was sent to Viet Nam. It was crystal clear to me and everybody else that there was some deep shit brewing between me and the first sergeant. This is the one you talked about being a gangster from Chicago. Who talked about you being a gangster from Chicago? You got that right. The dirty, rotten, snake dog, fascist, barbarian, snake dog, asshole. Rufus didn't use an excessive amount of profanity, but he did have a unique way of stringing words together about people he didn't like. It was brewing, not just between me and this cracker dog, but the whole machine. I had got myself a couple of Article 15s, been almost framed into a negligence of duty rap by being called asleep on guard duty. Just little shit. But it was beginning to turd up. This is the way things were wilding up when I got called into the captain's office. The first sergeant was there, and this guy from the Australian Army School of Military Engineering. The way Captain Bonebreak explained it was real simple. Private, it looks like you're closing in on a 3-year stay in the brig. However, our Australian friend here might be able to save your ass. Major Knightsbridge? the way this major explained to me, I could barely understand a word he said. I could go to jail for 3 days, or I could go with him and become a tunnel rat. Of course, I chose to become a tunnel rat. What the hell wants to...
Go to jail for 3 days?
3 years.
Oh, 3 years.
Did I say 3 days?
Yes, okay,
oh,
yeah.
that was a misspoke.
Yes, I
Thank
think so.
you.
Okay.
3 years.
3 years, okay.
I could go to jail for 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Or I could go with him and become a tunnel rat. Of course, I chose to become a tunnel rat. Who in the god-awful hell wants to spend time in jail and then come out and have to make up the lost time? I still don't know what a tunnel rat is, Willie. You will be right back. Gotta go pee. I had to smile watching him limp, jog across the sand stretch to the men's. He was such a tough little prick. 5'3" or 4", 110 at that. All wire ligaments. Someone once described someone who looked like him. A real bantamweight. All right, Don. Got that done. You don't have to pee a lot, do you, huh? I go when I have to. He did his familiar snarky frown. It was so much. So, oh, you think you hot shit, huh? Where was I? You're going to tell me what a tunnel rat is. Well, I guess I'll have to use the past tense, you know, like what a tunnel rat was. Whatever. I was interested and anxious to hear what he had to say. Okay. Well, here's what happened. I was transferred to Major Knightsbridge's Australian Army School of Military Engineering, which meant that I was going to be sent to someplace in Australia. That sounded damn good to me, to be away from Nam. Truth be told, I had to go to the map to find out where Australia was located. All right, it's this big old isle over there. I was transported lickety-spit to this training facility about 20 miles west of Sydney. Somebody gave us an orientation speech in this Australian language that I could barely understand. Crazy thing about the Australians, I never really could understand why they were in Viet Nam fighting on the American side. And they were serious about stuff. The Australians took care of maximum business. Personally, I was freaked out when one of these orientation people started running it down what we're going to be doing. We was a 20-man group called from the Americans. No, I don't mean that there were 25 Americans as a group. We really had a diverse group of crazies, which is what I grew to call us. There were a bunch of Hispanics. This included some Puerto Ricans who said, "We Hispanics." A collection of gringos, guys from the West Virginia coal mines who used to working underground coal mines. And me, yours truly. We were pushed into a 3-month intensive training program. Understand intensive, Willie, including extra pay. Sure I will, once you finish explaining it. He shook his head back and forth like somebody trying to get rid of a bad idea. I'm watching you, Willie. I got my eye on you. You're like one of those shrinks that try to tell you what they're thinking about by asking you what you think. I sensed we were about to wander off into some kind of psycho thing that I wasn't prepared to deal with, so I decided to push back hard. Rufus, look. I'm trying to put this shit together to write the best books that ever been written concerning a Vietnam vet, all the way up to Trump ship. Dig it? Sitting right next to me on the beach at Long Beach, your brother broke it down. He started dishing like nothing had ever been said about what he had just said. We were called combat engineers. A 3-month course. Mine detection, booby trap disarming, tunnel searching, right? Tunnel rats. I came out this shit feeling I had the secret of the enemy revealed to me. That was where it was, dig? All I had to do was nod to spur him on. What I'm trying to say is that I had no idea what I was going to be asked to do until we did it. Can you image somebody asking you, telling you to go down into a hole to kill somebody? That's what it was all about, basically. Got to give it to the Aussies, that's what we call them, Aussies. After we got to know them a little bit, they really knew their shit. I don't know how they got this fancy title, Australian Army School of Engineering from, but that's what they called it. A 3-month session to learn how to go down into the Viet Cong's tunnels. These were some really smart people, these people. They had started building these tunnels when the French were in control. You hear what I'm saying, Willie?
Mm-hmm.
I nodded, yes, yes, yes. I hear what you're saying. His eyes were starting to sparkle, and he was using more gestures than usual. They had hospitals, storehouses, arsenals, cities underground. Our job, the tunnel rats, to go down in these places to cause as much damage as possible, which meant killing as many people as you could find and picking up intel information, etc., etc. I almost opted out because I saw us as suicide victims. I mean, what chance do we have going into one of these holes and coming out alive? And the other stuff we were trained to do above ground was just as dangerous. Mine detection, booby trap disarming, demolitions. Aside from everything else, I had a little taste of claustrophobia in my system. Major Knightsbridge laid it on the line for me. I'm going to try to get Major Knightsbridge.
Okay.
See here, Private Dixon. The American Army wants to sentence you to a few years in the slammer, as Captain Bonebrick calls it. Now then, after you serve your years in the slammer, you'll be required to make up the time you've missed. In a sense, your interests will never quite have the time to catch up with your principal. Are you getting me, Private Dixon? Yes, sir! What else could I say? He had my balls in a bucket, as we used to say. Very good, Private. I think if you come out of this in one piece, you'll be considered a hero. You are dismissed, Private. So that's how I became a tunnel rat. But there was other stuff happening too while I was going through the tunnel rat training all week. I was going into Sydney, about 20 miles west of us. Now what you have to remember, I've been plucked right out of the Viet Nam jungles to be in this unit in Australia. Australia was very different from Nam, very different. A big old hot place where people drink a lot of beer. That's what these guys in my unit wanted to do on the weekend, every weekend. We worked our asses off 5 days a week, and come Friday night, it was Sydney and beer. Sydney. That's where I met Yvonne Goulegong. Yvonne Goulegong. He paused to sift the sand through his fingers, a very contemplative gesture. He made me think of someone, a Muslim or maybe a Catholic, doing his prayer beads. Yvonne was working at a checkout, as a checkout clerk in a local supermarket. I'll never be able to remember why I went into this market. One thing I do know is that I couldn't hang out with these beer drinking Aussies. Hardly anybody in the market when I went there. A rare thing on a Friday evening. I think I bought a few apples or something. Maybe I was doing something to get away from the beer drinkers. I placed the apples on the counter. We looked into each other's eyes. It was really and truly love at first sight on my side. She told me what the price of the apples were. I paid her and stood there looking at it like a fool. Anything else for you today, sir? I could barely nod my head. No, no. She sounded like an angel. She had this soft, low, sweet voice. I was double hooked. I loved the way she looked. And then she had this voice. I hear what you say. That was one of the things that drew me to ZZ, your lady from up north. Yeah, but go on, I want to hear this. Funny when I think back on it, how the beach and the ocean, the MII, seemed to brighten around us, to tighten around us, to become more intimate, in a manner of speaking. If I was an Aboriginal, you know what that is, Willie? One of the people in Australia when the white folks showed up. Give the man a Cupid doll. You know that exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
I had seen these people in different places around, but I'd never been close to one of them, and I'd never thought about falling in love with one of them. I had to buy apples for 3 weekends before she would agree to let me take a walk around the block with me. I would like to take a walk with you, but my parents want to meet you first. What was she, 18, 19? Where I come from, girls in their late teens were damn near considered women. They definitely didn't have to ask their parents for permission to walk around the block with somebody. Well, what the hell, when Australia do what the Australians do. She got off from work, I met her in front of the store at 8:30 p.m. and we started walking. And walking. And walking. And walking. I was in damn good shape, so the walking was not a problem. Where in the hell was she walking to? I have to admit, I was beginning to feel a little skittish when we wound up in this shanty town. A real shanty town, Willie, not a slum like we have on the west side and the south side of Chicago. A real shanty town. I've seen pictures, read articles about the situations in National Geographic. Rufus, I haven't an idea. Why don't we continue this one at the Salena-Hawkins? I'm feeling kind of snackish. That sounds like a rational idea, but quite rational. He spoke like a real Aussie. Brother Rufus must have been feeling snackish himself, judging from the way he attacked this chicken adobo Lola placed in front of him. So what happened with you and your cat, with Tarzan? Ah, that rascal. He's too much. He's been bringing this little black and white beauty around. I call her Jane, you know, like Tarzan and Jane. I'm hip to him. But I've been running him off the premise. I don't think Mr. Kim wants to see a cat calling in his backyard. We had a quiet little chuckle about that. It was time for a piece of cassava cake, a cup of tea, and the rest of the story about him and Yvonne Gulligong. So, what happened then? What happened about what? Brother was playing one of his little games with me. He was such a joker. About you and Miss Gulligong, her parents. Willie, I got to give it to you. You are a persistent cat. You're not related to Tarzan, are you? Is he black? And it was the first time I scored a real down-to-earth belly laugh out of Rufus. People could practically turn around with smiles on their faces. It was that kind of laugh. You know something, Willie? He pure black all the way. Miss Gulligong? He turned serious immediately, took a sip of his tea and got back into his story. We took the walk, a number of walks, and after I had satisfied Mr. and Mrs. Gulligong that I was not going to mistreat their daughter in any way, Yvonne was in a sense all they had. You know, you hear words like grinding poverty, or you read words like that and they don't really mean anything until you get up close to her. Father Gulligong and Mother Gulligong had come from the outback. That's what they call it, with nothing but the dirty, raggedy clothes on their backs. The whole shantytown was like that. And despite it all, they were proud people. It was hard for me to wrap my head around this proud thing. They looked like they were starving to death. And like I said, they were dirty and raggedy. But there was a way that the father sat on the dirt floor of their shanty and talked to me like a proper dad would talk to any young dude who's obviously interested in trying to get into his daughter's panties. What did he say to you? Well, he didn't give me permission to walk his daughter home from her job on this particular Friday night, or to be anywhere near her after my third visit. Basically, I just bribed my way into the family circle. The father smoked cigarettes, so I followed him on home, walking 100 yards behind under the dog with a carton of cigarettes and a sack full of canned goods, a dozen apples. Yvonne knew what I was doing when she sold me this stuff. And she was really pleased, I could tell. So that's how I started. That's how it started. I would trip into town on Friday night, buy a bunch of groceries, and follow Yvonne home. After my third visit, the father said, "You're a serious young man. You may walk with Yvonne, but no tricky stuff. You hear me? You hear me, Dad? You hear me all right?" Yes, sir. I would have agreed to anything. Yvonne had my nose open so wide you could have driven a Mack truck through it. Oh, yeah. I know what it's like to have your nose open. We shared a brother-to-brother laugh on that one. Let me add this. It didn't take long for word to get around about me and Yvonne among the guys in my unit, or as the Aussies called us, mites, meaning mates. Being the kind of heartless, immoral little beauties we were, I thought I would get some kind of flack from the mites, especially from the Aussies, but that wasn't the way it went down. Just before I was on my way to meet Yvonne on this particular Friday evening, I got a call from Major Knightsbridge's office. Ah, shit. Now what? What did that do? Are they going to take my weekend pass away? Are they going to keep me away from Yvonne? Private Dixon reporting as orders, sir. Knightsbridge was real old school British Army, totally driven by the code. Private Dixon, I have information that you've been seeing one of the local maidens. Is that correct? Yes, sir. Will you be seeing that young lady this evening? Yes, sir, as soon as she gets off from work. Very good, Friday. I've arranged to have you have transport to your young lady's place of employment and then to her home. That is all, Private. I had dropped my jaw down to my shoe tops. What? What does this mean? Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. He mumbled under his breath as I stumbled out of his office. It's a bloody damn shame the way these people are being treated. They've done nothing to deserve being treated like animals. I can't begin to tell you how I felt when I looked up at this deuce and a half, fully loaded and packed with all kinds of stuff. Clothes, shoes, cigarettes, candy, canned goods, books, yes, even beer. Yvonne, who was usually cool about stuff, looked like she was going to faint when the truck, expertly driven by one of my mites, pulled up in front of her workplace. Melvin, what's this? Get in, get in. It seemed like everybody in my unit had contributed, and the word spread like an Australian wildfire. By the time we got to the Goolagong shantytown, everybody knew everything. The Yank, that's what they called me, the Yank was bringing goodies to the Goolagong home. It took a few minutes of patient explanation for Yvonne to explain to her mother and father that I was giving all this stuff to them. Yvonne explained to me they thought I was giving them all of this stuff for their daughter. I hadn't even thought about anything like that. They thought you were bringing them a dowry. Damn, Willie, I know. You know every damn thing, don't you? Well, not everything. Well, anyway, you got it right. Funny thing happened. I noticed as we were unloading stuff through the front door, stacking on the back room, stacking up in the back room, Father Goolagong was giving stuff out of the back door. I couldn't get with that. I asked Yvonne to run it down to me. I'm not going to try to talk the way they talked, the way she talked. I could never get beyond the mic. I hear Ruth, I hear you. She said, it's like that, Melvin, if my dad has so much and our mites have so little, that would mean, pardon me French, that me dad, our family a bunch of greedy bastards. Did what she said to me, Willie? I had a very clear idea of what he was saying, that she had said to him, but I didn't want to shortchange his explanation. I'm not quite sure what she was saying, Rufus. Maybe you can break it down to me. He gave me his usual multi-escaped, snarky look. Come on, man, you trying to mess with me or what? Before we got into it, I signaled for Lola for another pot of oolong tea and a couple more cassava cookies. I'm making oolong tea, oolong, just for the kick of it.
Gotcha.
What it meant was that the Aboriginal people, Yvonne's people, had discovered early on how rotten capitalism could be if it was misused. Dig it? It was time for me to stop acting like I was cute, that I knew everything. It was time to put on knee pads. Rufus, to be honest with you, I can't really say that I know what you're talking about. Glad to hear you say that, champ. It gives me a chance to explain what I didn't have a grip on either way back then. What Yvonne explained to me was that her family come into a lot suddenly. Now they could suddenly declare themselves rich, whatever that meant. Or they could share whatever they came into, which would make everybody feel better because it would mean that each one had to share in a good fortune. I leaped out at them because I had studied communism, capitalism, a whole bunch of these issues in college. So they were communists. That's what you're saying? Sorry, Willie, sorry. That ain't what I'm saying. What was explained to me, Yvonne, who usually had a somewhat cheerful looking face, turned purple dark on me as she explained. Melvin, listen to me close, okay? Because I might not be able to explain this more than once. We, the people they call Aboriginals, have been inside this land for 40,000 years. Our elders count better and say that our dream time predates the Europeans' years. We may be the ones who came before those 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 who came. And then the others came. We have no way of understanding where they came from. Who in the hell knew where this little English place was? This England they came from. They didn't have a clear idea of where they came from, but we've always known where we came from. Our dream time tells us that. They're deep people, deep people. You got that right, Uncle Willie. You got that right. So she explained to me, we never picked up on the idea of being addicted to stuff, to wealth, to money, to one group of people having more than the other. This was something that the invaders could never figure out about us. They thought we were poor because we didn't feel the need to surround our lives with all of stuff. Believe me, when the invaders came, we had everything we needed or wanted. We only became poor when the invaders started stuffing us full of these poisonous ideas. Wow, that's what she said? Mm-hmm. She said a whole lot more than that, but I can't remember all of it. Look, why don't we get back to this tomorrow? I'm getting sleepy. Late night last night? Yeah, I guess you could say that. I tried going to sleep about 10:30, but I kept having these nightmares every time I dozed off. I don't know if from these pills they gave me at the VA or it's just from this PTSD stuff. I paid the check, leaving my usual big tip. Have a good evening, Lola said, as she ushered us out into the evening. Time to mask up, keep that distance. Give you a lift, Rufus? No, I'm cool. What would Tarzan think seeing me wheel up? Tomorrow? Same time? He nodded yes and limped straight away. And that was the beginning of Rufus' romantic life in Australia. And I'm not going to belabor the point because there's much more to get to tomorrow. And tomorrow is another day, yes, which in effect will be next Tuesday. That will be our tomorrow.
Amen there. All right. Well, thank you. The book can be purchased on Amazon.
Oh. What do you mean, this book here?
Yes. Okay. Carla Spivey did the cover. And there's a blurb from Professor Justin Gifford on the back.
He did this.
Yes, he did, right. And your website is www.odihawkins.com. And so we look forward to another story of Rufus,
Another conversation with Rufus.
Another conversation with Rufus on another.
Believe me, it will be
It.
it.
Yes.